Let's jump into this deep dive all about sales process automation. If you've been digging into this topic, we are so here for it. And we're going to help you sift through all that info and really pull out those golden nuggets. So we've got this awesome blog post called How Does Sales Process Automation Work? And let me tell you, it is packed with info. But don't worry, we're going to break it all down so you can walk away with all those key takeaways. Now, we're not just going to talk about what sales process automation is. We're going to figure out how it actually works in the real world and what you should really be thinking about before you go ahead and implement anything.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than just like buying some shiny new tool and just hoping for the best.
Absolutely. Plus, this blog post actually points out a pretty surprising tech solution that's actually really well suited for this.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later. First things first. Think of sales process automation, like having your own super efficient personal assistant. They're handling all those repetitive tasks that just eat up your time. Things like data entry, sending out those follow-up emails, even generating reports that nobody really wants to do.
Oh, yeah, that's a great way to think about it. It's all about freeing you up to focus on the strategic stuff. Like building those key relationships and closing those big deals.
Exactly. This blog defines sales process automation as using technology to basically automate all those manual tasks, which ultimately boosts efficiency and reduces those pesky errors. And I think this is a crucial point. Automation, it isn't one size fits all.
It really isn't. You've got to figure out, what processes in your sales cycle are actually ripe for automation. What's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck?
Right, it's all about customization, figuring out what works for your specific needs and goals. Now, this blog lays out a really practical 4-step guide for implementing automation. And I think it's worth walking through. Step 1 is about quantifying the potential and then prioritizing those automation opportunities.
Yeah, this step is all about getting laser focused on where you can make the biggest impact. You need to pinpoint those tasks that are true time sucks, the ones that are prone to those human errors. Like, think about how much time your team spends just updating customer information in your CRM.
Wow, I can feel the frustration already. Just endless clicking and typing.
Right. Automating that could free up so much time. But you also need to think about how complex the task is. Automating something with structured data, like updating contact info in your CRM, that's probably way easier than trying to automate something with unstructured data, like writing a personalized email to a client.
That's good. That makes sense. So how do you go about identifying those tasks that are prime for automation, those low-hanging fruit that will give you the biggest wins?
I think the key is to involve your sales team. Especially those subject matter experts. They're the ones who are actually doing the work day in and day out. So they know where the bottlenecks are, where the real-time sinks lie.
Just tapping into that frontline intelligence. They're living it so they know.
Exactly. And this blog also recommends bringing in an automation consultant, someone who can come in, assess your current processes, and help you figure out what's feasible and what's not. Think of them as your automation Sherpa, guiding you through the process.
I love that. An automation Sherpa. So once you've nailed down those tasks you want to automate, what's next?
Step 2 is all about testing the waters with pilot programs. It's like dipping your toe in before you jump into the deep end of the automation pool.
Always a good idea. Nobody wants to belly flop into automation.
Exactly. You don't want to go all in on a solution without knowing how it's actually going to work in the real world. Choose one of those critical processes you identified in step 1 and run a pilot program.
So it's like a small-scale test run to see how things play out.
Right. And this pilot phase is crucial for a few reasons. First, you need to compare the automated process to your current manual process. Are you actually saving time? Are you reducing errors?
You need the data to prove that it's actually working right.
Exactly. The pilot phase also gives you a chance to fine-tune the process. Iron out any wrinkles. Make sure it integrates seamlessly with your existing workflows. You want it to feel like a natural extension of what you're already doing, not some clunky add-on that everyone hates.
Okay, so the pilot phase is done. The data shows it's working. You fine-tune the process. What happens next?
Now comes the fun part. Step 3 is all about choosing the right technology to power your automation. And there's some seriously cool tools out there these days.
This is where it gets really interesting, right? I mean, we're talking about AI, machine learning, all that cutting-edge stuff.
Exactly. Let's start with machine learning, or ML for short. It's AI that learns from data. So the more you use it, the smarter it gets. It's great for things like predicting sales trends or identifying which leads are most likely to convert.
Okay, so it's like having a super-powered sales analyst on your team, working 24/7 to crunch those numbers.
That's a great way to put it. And then you've got natural language processing, or NLP. This one lets machines understand and even generate human language. Think chatbots that can answer customer questions, or automated email responses that sound like a real person wrote them.
Wow, so it's like having a team of virtual assistants who can handle those routine customer interactions.
Exactly. And it's getting more and more sophisticated. We're not talking about those clunky chatbots of the past. NLP is all about making those interactions feel natural and personalized.
That's impressive. What else is out there?
Well, there are also smart workflows, which are basically AI-powered workflows that can optimize your processes in real time. They can identify bottlenecks and make adjustments on the fly.
So it's like having a super efficient project manager constantly monitoring and improving your processes.
Yes, smart workflows are especially useful for those complex sales processes, where things are constantly changing and you need to make quick decisions. And then, of course, you've got virtual agents. Think chatbots and voice assistants, but powered by AI. They can handle basic customer queries, provide information, even guide customers through your sales process.
It's like having a 24/7 sales team available at your customer's fingertips. Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. AI is basically revolutionizing the sales game.
It really is. But there's one technology that this blog highlights, which I think is particularly well suited for sales process automation.
You mentioned a surprise tech earlier. Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, it's robotic process automation, or RPA. It deserves a spotlight.
RPA. Tell me everything.
RPA is all about automating those repetitive rule-based tasks, especially ones that involve tons of data. Think data entry, generating reports, filling out forms. Anything that's super manual and follows a set pattern, RPA can handle it.
It's like having a digital worker who never gets tired or makes typos.
Ah,
I can see why you're excited about this one.
and here's why I think it's particularly relevant for you. RPA integrates really well with popular CRM platforms like Salesforce Marketo and HubSpot. So if you're already using one of those, implementing RPA can be pretty seamless.
So you're saying that RPA can supercharge your existing CRM. That's a game changer.
It can be, but even with the best technology, you can't just set it and forget it. Step 4 is all about scaling up, improving, and planning for the long haul.
So even though we've automated things, we can't just kick back and relax.
Definitely not. It's about continuous monitoring and improvement. You need to use those insights you gain from your pilot phase to optimize and expand your automation efforts. And whether you're automating lead generation follow-ups or forecasting, you need to keep refining your approach based on how things are actually performing.
It's like tending a garden, right? You plant seeds,
Yeah.
but you still need to water, fertilize, and prune to keep things growing.
That's a great analogy, and I know we've covered a lot of ground here, but let's zoom out for a second and talk about why sales automation is such a big deal.
Let's recap those benefits.
Well, first and foremost, it frees up your sales team from all those tedious, time-consuming tasks. They can finally focus on what they do best, building relationships and closing deals.
Which ultimately leads to more revenue, right? I mean, if your sales team is spending less time on busy work and more time on high-value activities, it's only natural that sales would increase.
Right. Companies using marketing automation see a 451% increase in qualified leads, according to research from the Anutis Group.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned that careful planning, the right tech, and continuous improvement are crucial for success. Is this something that any business can achieve regardless of size?
Absolutely. The beauty of sales automation is that it's scalable. There are solutions out there for businesses of all shapes and sizes.
That's great to hear. Now, before we move on, I want to hear from you, our listener. What's standing out to you so far? What's resonating with your current challenges and goals when it comes to sales? Take a moment to think about that.
While you're pondering that, we want to leave you with this thought. We focused a lot on how sales process automation works. But the real key to success is choosing the right tasks to automate. What would that look like for your unique sales process? What are those things you could hand over to technology so you can focus on what truly matters?
Keep those questions in mind as we continue exploring the world of sales automation.
You know, it's interesting how this blog post, it really emphasizes both the power of technology and the importance of the human touch in sales. It's not about one replacing the other. It's about finding that synergy between the two.
That's so true. It's like automation gives your sales team superpowers, allowing them to be even more human in their interactions.
Exactly. Now, one of the key strategies this blog highlights is using automation to personalize the customer experience.
Personalization. Everyone's talking about it. But what does that actually look like in the context of sales automation?
Well, imagine this. Your automation tools are constantly gathering data on your prospects, their interests, their pain points, their buying behavior. This data can be incredibly valuable.
So it's not just about collecting data for the sake of it. It's about using that data to create a tailored experience for each individual prospect.
Right. You can use automation to segment your audience based on their specific needs and preferences, and then deliver targeted content offers and messages that resonate with them on a personal level.
It's like speaking directly to their needs and desires, instead of just blasting out generic messages to everyone.
Exactly. This level of personalization can make a huge difference in how prospects perceive your brand and how likely they are to engage with you.
It's all about making those prospects feel seen and understood,
Yeah.
not just like another number in your database.
That's the key, and automation allows you to achieve that level of personalization at scale, which would be incredibly difficult to do manually. Now, another important point this blog raises is beta security.
That's a big one, especially when we're talking about sensitive customer information. What does the blog have to say about that?
It stresses the importance of choosing automation tools that prioritize data security and comply with all the relevant regulations. You can't cut corners when it comes to protecting your data and your customers' privacy.
Absolutely. So we've got personalization and data security. What other strategies does this blog recommend?
Well, it talks about using automation to improve communication and follow-up, which is another area where you can see significant gains. Think about all those touch points you have with prospects throughout the sales process: emails, phone calls, social media interactions.
It can be a lot to keep track of, especially if you're dealing with a high volume of leads.
Exactly. Automation can help you streamline those communications and ensure that nothing falls through the cracks. You can set up automated email sequences that nurture leads over time, trigger personalized follow-up messages based on their actions, and even schedule those all-important phone calls without having to manually track everything.
It's like having a super organized assistant who's always on top of things, reminding you when to reach out and what to say.
Right, and that frees up your sales team to focus on the quality of those interactions rather than getting bogged down in the logistics.
So it's not just about automating tasks. It's about using automation to enhance those human interactions, to make them more meaningful and effective.
Exactly. And the blog touches on one more strategy that I think is worth exploring: using automation to gather feedback and insights.
That's interesting. How can automation help with that?
Well, you can use automation to send out surveys, collect feedback from your customers, and even analyze that data to identify trends and areas for improvement.
So it's not just about automating the sales process itself. It's about using automation to close the loop and get those valuable insights from your customers.
Right, and then you can use that feedback to refine your sales processes, your messaging, even your product development. It's a continuous cycle of improvement.
I'm seeing a common thread here. It seems like the real power of sales automation lies in its ability to enhance those human interactions, to free up your team, to focus on building relationships, and providing that personalized touch that customers really value.
That's a great observation. It's not about replacing humans with robots. It's about using technology to empower your sales team, to be more human, more strategic, and more focused on creating value for your customers.
Exactly. And this blog does a great job of highlighting that delicate balance. But I have a question. It briefly mentions the importance of continuous learning and adaptation. Why is that so important in the world of sales automation?
That's a great question. The world of sales, like most things, is constantly changing. New technologies emerge, customer expectations shift, and your competitors are always trying to stay one step ahead.
It's like a never-ending race to stay ahead of the curve.
It really is. And this blog emphasizes that sales process automation isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and refining your approach. So even if you successfully implemented automation, you can't just sit back and relax. You need to stay agile and be willing to make adjustments along the way.
Exactly. You need to constantly monitor how your automation is performing, gather feedback from your sales team, and be open to tweaking your approach as you learn what works and what doesn't.
It's all about embracing that continuous improvement mindset, which is crucial in any aspect of business, really.
Absolutely. And this blog also highlights the importance of staying informed about new technologies and trends in the sales automation space. What's cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow.
So you need to be a lifelong learner, always expanding your knowledge and skills to keep up with the ever-changing sales landscape.
Exactly. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, and it might seem a bit overwhelming, but
It's all about taking it one step at a time. We're breaking down these complex concepts so you can walk away with the key takeaways.
that's right. And this blog post really does provide a great roadmap for getting started with sales process automation. And remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Start small, focus on automating those high-impact tasks first, and gradually expand your efforts as you gain confidence and experience.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to experiment and learn along the way. The best approach is often the one you discover through trial and error.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we discussed earlier, the human element of sales.
Absolutely, that's the heart of it all.
This blog post really drives home the point that automation should be used to empower your sales team, allowing them to focus on building those genuine relationships and providing that personalized touch.
And that's where things get really interesting. This blog hints at some powerful strategies for using automation to enhance those human interactions.
But you'll have to tune in next time for the final part of our deep dive to hear all about them.
That's right. We'll be back soon to explore how you can use automation to create a truly customer-centric sales experience.
See you then. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of sales process automation. And as promised, we're diving into those strategies for using automation to actually boost the human element in your sales process. It's something this blog post keeps coming back to, and it's fascinating stuff.
It really is. This blog does a great job of showing that technology and human interaction aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they can work together beautifully.
Yeah, it's not about robots taking over. It's about giving your sales team the tools and the time to really focus on what matters, building those authentic relationships with customers.
Right. And this blog highlights several specific strategies for making that happen. For example, it talks about using automation to create a more personalized customer experience.
Okay, personalization.
Mm.
We hear that word all the time, but what does it actually mean? In the context of sales automation, what does it look like in practice?
Imagine this. Your automation tools are gathering all sorts of data on your prospects, their interests, their pain points, their past buying behavior. And you're not just collecting this data for the sake of it. You're using it to tailor your interactions with each individual prospect.
So instead of sending out like generic emails and hoping for the best, you're using this data to make your messages feel more relevant and personalized.
Exactly. You can segment your audience based on their specific needs and preferences, and then deliver targeted content and offers that really resonate with them.
It's like you're reading their minds and giving them exactly what they want before they even know they want it.
That's the goal. And this level of personalization can have a huge impact on your results. Research from Epsilon shows that 80% of consumers are more likely to do business with a company that offers personalized experiences.
Wow, that's a significant number.
Yeah.
It seems like personalization is no longer a nice-to-have. It's a must-have in today's market.
It really is. And automation makes it possible to personalize at scale, something that would be incredibly difficult to do manually. Now, this blog also talks about using automation to improve communication and follow-up throughout the sales process.
Okay, that makes sense. It can be tough to keep track of all those emails, phone calls, and social media interactions, especially when you're dealing with a lot of prospects.
It's a lot to juggle, but automation can help you streamline all those communications and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks.
So no more missed opportunities or forgotten follow-ups.
Exactly. You can set up automated email sequences that nurture leads over time. You can trigger personalized follow-up messages based on their actions. You can even schedule those all-important phone calls, all without having to manually manage everything.
It's like having a virtual assistant who's constantly reminding you who to contact, when to contact them, and what to say.
That's a great way to put it. And by automating these tasks, you free up your sales team to focus on having more meaningful conversations with those prospects.
It's all about quality over quantity, right? Making those interactions count.
Exactly. And finally, this blog touches on something we mentioned earlier, using automation to gather feedback and insights from your customers.
Oh, this is so important for continuous improvement. But how can automation help with this?
Well, you can use automation to send out surveys, collect feedback through various channels, and even analyze all that data to identify trends and areas where you can improve.
So it's not just about automating the sales process itself. It's about using automation to collect those valuable insights that can help you refine your entire approach to sales and customer service.
Right. It's about closing the loop and
Yeah.
using those customer insights to make your processes more effective and customer-centric.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. I feel like we've really untacked the power of sales process automation and explored how it can be used to enhance the human element in sales, not replace it.
That's exactly the key takeaway here. It's about finding that sweet spot where technology and human interaction work together seamlessly.
It's about empowering your sales team to be more efficient, more strategic, and more focused on building those genuine, lasting relationships with their customers.
And as you continue exploring the world of sales process automation, keep in mind those key strategies we discussed: personalization, streamlined communication, data security, and continuous feedback.
Those are powerful tools that can help you transform your sales process and create a truly exceptional customer experience. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into sales process automation.
We hope you found it valuable, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.